inside Fiserv Forum. Home team won. Visiting team had a great streak snapped. Final score, number 15, Marquette, 76. Number 6, Purdue, 58. The Golden Eagles, Stevie Mitchell, he led all scorers with 21 points on just 11 shots. But the star of the game, it's Kam Jones, 6'5" senior, took 12 shots, made 7 of them, finished with 17 points, 13 rebounds, 10 assists, and an 18-point victory over the back-to-back Big Ten champs and our reigning national runners-up. Team that had just disposed of Alabama 4 days earlier. Norlander, I tried to tell you in the preseason, I think multiple times, maybe 3 or 4 or 7, I tried to tell you Kam Jones, my little homie from Memphis, would emerge as the favorite to win Big East Player of the Year. Are you ready to jump on board?
No. He's going to be there, but Ryan Kalkbrenner still very much in that mix at this point. In fact, I'd say we're now, 16 days into the season? Kam Jones, Kalkbrenner, and Janai Broom are probably your top 3 National Player of the Year in the race, and we're way early. They're just a notch above everyone else, and frankly, that situation is going to change over the next 6 days because we've got a whole lot of good teams playing a whole lot of good games. But within the confines of the Big East, I think it could be a pretty awesome battle between Kalkbrenner and Kam Jones. Kalkbrenner's hitting like 85% of his shots. It's outrageous. Kam Jones right now averaging 22.6 points, 6 assists, 5.6 boards, 1.8 steals. He's shooting 72.7% from 2 and 48% from 3 and has an offensive rating of 143.2 at KenPom. Incredible. But yeah, he is making his presence known. By no means an unknown commodity. He was in our top 10 players in the country going into the season and a preseason All-American level player. And here he is getting 17, a career high 13 points and 10 assists there to get the first trip dub since D-Wade in the Elite Eight in 2003 against then number 1 Kentucky there. Some good stuff out of him, but also, Stevie Mitchell, as you mentioned, having a game high 21. Chase Ross had 12. And then the obvious thing when you watch the game, and they had Benetti and Raftery had mentioned this a couple times on the call, Marquette's defense was especially readying up to the task. What was interesting is after the game, and Raf interviewed Shaka on the court, he said Purdue still wound up getting a lot of what they wanted to do on some of the stuff that they were running. But if you watch the game, it was quite clear that they were not ready to meet the energy level of what Marquette was, and that was particularly impressive there. And the fact that a Purdue team that we no longer has Edie, and I'm not stepping off of what we said just a few shows ago. This was, you walk into Fiserv Forum, it might be a 2-timer, but you got to trust that building, GP. Marquette still was able to really establish its presence in the interior, 38-22 in paint points there. And it wasn't just that. Marquette was able to play pretty stifling on-ball defense, dominate in the interior, and get 19 fast break points off of, I think it was 15 Purdue turnovers. So impressive stuff all around. Kam Jones is the big story. It's a cool story. We've got a guy who maybe he won't go for 40 in a game. I maintain he's still going to be a threat to do that. But if he's going to be more of a triple-double threat, then look out. And yeah, he's right there at the top of the list with Kalkbrenner and Janai Broom for early National Player of the Year race.
Terrific performance last night. I wrote about this in the top 25 and 1. It's a point I've made a lot of times, even if I do sometimes disregard it, as recently as, a month ago when I said I think Cooper Flagg is going to be the National Player of the Year. It's not usually the 5-star freshman who pop like this. It is typically a legitimate NBA prospect who has already been in college and could have reasonably entered and or stayed in the NBA draft, but for whatever reason, they decided to come back to school. That is Kam Jones. And now he's having the type of senior year that I think anybody who makes that decision would hope to have. You're playing for a nationally relevant team in front of big crowds on big stages and having big performances. It's established. He's my little homie from Memphis. He graduated from ECS. It's a private school in the area and wasn't really recruited by Memphis seriously at all. I mean, they were aware of him, obviously, but he was not a priority to his hometown big basketball brand. And that's among the, I don't want to say that's among the reasons he ended up at Marquette. He might have picked Marquette over Memphis, even if Memphis had made him priority number one. But it is a fact they did not really make him a priority. And now he looks like an All-American. I did love last night that he took a moment in his postgame to mention his high school coach, Terry Tippett. You might not know this because, like, why would you? But I did tweet it over the weekend. Terry Tippett is a high school basketball coaching legend in Memphis. When I graduated college and first started, covering the sport at the Commercial Appeal newspaper, I spent a lot of time at White Station High School, which is where Terry Tippett was at the time. Among others, he coached Ernest Shelton there, who went to Alabama, Robert O'Kelly there, who went to Wake Forest. He won state championships at 3 different schools. He passed away over the weekend at the age of 79. He coached Kam Jones at ECS, and Kam said he wanted to dedicate that performance to his coach and this entire season to his coach. And, coming on the heels of John Calipari also very publicly, honoring Terry Tippett over the weekend on social media in a way that he didn't have to, but felt compelled to. I just, being a high school coach can be a thankless job sometimes. You don't get rich and famous doing that for the most part. And so you've got one of the biggest coaches in the sport and one of the biggest players in the sport. Both have personal relationships with this high school coach of Memphis, and made a note to mention him over the past days. I as somebody who knew Terry, liked Terry, and really enjoyed all the time I spent with him, I appreciated Kam doing that last night.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And I'd seen your note on that. So thoughts with his family, and yeah, those kind of people really function as the gears that help the sport continue to turn. A lot of high school level coaches that have these long-lasting connections with a lot of people in particularly college circles, but NBA as well. They don't get a lot of shine beyond the confines of their own given communities, but they have huge impacts that span many years and many people and all across the country there. As for Purdue, Trey Kaufman-Renn he was coming off 26 points against Bama. That was a career high. He had 16 points, 8 rebounds, 3 turnovers in this one. Wasn't a game-changing kind of player. Marquette, we're gonna get to the Gonzaga game in a second here, but watching the Gonzaga game Monday night and watching this game last night, I just felt by the time we got to halftime that I knew how the game was going to end. I felt that Marquette was dictating the conversation. Got revenge, by the way, for losing in the Maui title game last year against Purdue. And these teams will meet in Mackey in a year, but this was only the second time Marquette's ever beaten Purdue. It's now 2-11 versus the Boilermakers in the history of that series there. And Braden Smith had some really nice moments. Fletcher Lawyer, a little up, a little down. No shame in the loss whatsoever, GP. But for Purdue, it finally gets knocked off on the road. We talked about the streak in the previous couple of shows there. I do wonder if when they're in big spots against good teams, which Marquette is certainly that. And I got a question for you on MU in just a second here. Will if Braden Smith, is he going to be the guy to take the big shot? Can it be Kaufman-Renn? I have all the confidence in the world that Braden Smith is going to wind up as being among the 3 to 5 most valuable point guards in the country, if not eventually number 1. But I did wonder about that in this spot here last night, because also Marquette's not a team that is physically imposing. And now that being said, they're just so well coached and so well disciplined. They've got a great culture there that they can overcome those kind of things. But Purdue was unable to flip the script in the game on Tuesday night, and I thought that was certainly noticeable. Marquette is 18-12 GP under Shaka Smart when playing ranked opponents. That's obviously a really healthy record. It's now 5-0 in back-to-back seasons. That has not happened for this program. This is a little bit of a wow here. But Marquette, and some of this is maybe a function of the schedule, but some of it, frankly, is the state of the program and the coaches and all that. Last time Marquette started consecutive seasons 5-0 was back from 2008 to 2010. So it's been a minute there. And I think one of the bigger reasons why, in addition to the schedule, is Marquette is now plus 18 in turnover margin. So Purdue wasn't able to turn Marquette over at any kind of efficient rate there. And because of, frankly, the returning cast that they have, they lose Kolick, which is, and Iguodaro, those are big players. But having so many returning players is is a key part of that here, and that's going to be necessary for a Marquette team that we think has got a chance to consistently be in or around that top 10 conversation. If you're going to minimize your turnovers, man, that's going to go a long, long way. Hey, here's my question for you. And then take it where you want, or we can go on to Gonzaga, San Diego State. Since the onset of COVID, so call it the 2020-2021 season, okay? Is there a better program in the country that has not made a Final Four than Marquette? So you got to toss out your Purdue's. You got to toss out, you got to toss out UConn. If you want to include the 2021, that would obviously mean that, Gonzaga, Baylor, they met in the title game, so they don't apply there. I don't know if there is. I mean, Marquette's.
When did Houston last make the Final Four?
Houston last made the Final Four the same year. That's Gonzaga and Baylor. So they're in that conversation. So they wouldn't apply to this. So I just don't think that there is. I think what is Marquette 80-30 under Shaka Smart. They have had 2 seeds. They haven't made the deep run yet. But if you're watching the show and you want to comment in the post after, if you're watching this after the fact, I'd be interested to hear if maybe you want to say Tennessee might be there. Bama just made a Final Four, so they're not in this conversation. North Carolina's been, obviously Duke has been. Auburn has not. It was there in 2019. But I think that Marquette's got a really good case. Now, it's a specific line of delineation. We're talking about the best program yet to make the biggest stage in the sport over the past 4.5 years. And I didn't prep you with this one ahead of time, but I just wonder, think about the top of your head. Is it Arizona? Maybe. But I think Marquette's got a really good shot. And right now, it looks like it could be pacing toward another season where it's, a top 3 seed.
Yeah, I'd have to really dive in to give you a definitive answer. You go look at Tommy Lloyd's record since he took over at Arizona. It's outstanding. Yeah. But like Marquette and Shaka would be in the conversation. And perhaps I'll bounce around a little bit. There's a lot of stuff in my head. Perhaps there's a lesson in the Shaka Smart story. Because, contrary to the way some framed it, he did not run Texas into the ground. He was fine. It wasn't great. Even Shaka would tell you that, I'm certain. But he didn't run it into the ground. It just didn't pop for whatever reason. But he gets another opportunity and he jumps at it, obviously. And now he looks like Shaka Smart, rising coaching star that he was at VCU before he ever got to Texas. And so I say all that to say, you see this with NFL quarterbacks sometimes. Like, look around the league. There's all these guys that franchises just gave up on. And now they're doing okay for other players. It's just sometimes you need time. You need a new.
You're saying Shaka Smart is the Geno Smith.
I'm saying he's Sam Darnold. I'm saying Shaka Smart is the Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold. I'm saying better than Sam
What
Darnold.
I'm trying to tell you is Shaka Smart is the Baker Mayfield of college basketball.
He's also better than Baker. I don't know if there is a quarterback right now that applies to, but I understand the analogy.
You understand the point, even so there's just. If somebody is really good and then the next stop it doesn't go so well, it doesn't mean that their career has fallen off necessarily. And perhaps Shaka is a reminder of that. He's been fabulous in Milwaukee, and just he gave credit to Purdue last night. I love the quote. He would say, he said, I'll just read it to you. So much respect for Purdue. I would say, other than UConn in college basketball right now, they have the best program. The consistency that they've shown, the fact they're able to lose a guy like Zach Edey and still have a team that can play with and beat anyone. So that's a great win for us. So he tips his cap to Purdue. I think you could say a lot of those same things, similar things about the program he's running in Milwaukee. Like I said earlier in the week, I just love that these two men made this game. They both were coming off challenging things, and even Matt would know, if you go to Fiserv Forum on a Tuesday night and Stevie Mitchell is going to lead all scores and Kam Jones is going to get a triple-double, you're probably going to have a hard time with that. I saw Myron Metcalf, a buddy at ESPN, tweet last night, does Matt Painter know he doesn't have to schedule this way? Alabama on a Friday, at Marquette on a Tuesday, Big Ten schedule to come. And I'm sure he does. As Myron knows, but I like that he does. I'd rather watch what we watched last night than most of the stuff we get this time of the year.
Well, I mean, I posted this on Blue Sky on Tuesday night, in that it's no surprise that these coaches and programs decided to play each other this way, because they operate on a wavelength that, frankly, most others can't. We alluded to this on a recent episode there, but Shaka Smart and it's not even stubborn, because I talked with Shock a little bit about this when I saw him on the road in the summer when they didn't add another transfer. He's not anti-transfer portal at all. Tyler Kolek originally transferred from George Mason. Look what he did for the program there. But when you've got a good thing going and you're still more than content and have ultra confidence in the people in your program, and you have a big trust and faith in how you are evaluating recruiting from a high school level up, he doesn't feel the need to mess with that. And they poke around on a couple transfers, and then they find out the deal, and then they're like, you know what, we're all set. We are more than okay. Go ahead and continue to hunt there. And Painter, it's not exactly the same, but also obviously in our roster laden with transfers, and he is as capable and as frankly as trusting in his instincts as a coach evaluator of player talent at the high school level as maybe anyone. He does not give a damn about recruiting rankings, and I mean he doesn't. Some coaches might say they don't, but they can't help but look. If recruiting rankings disappeared forever, it wouldn't bother Matt Painter one bit. He does not care. Look at where Braden Smith was ranked, CJ Cox. You go on down the list there. Purdue is not the school for the most part that's going to get top 50 kind of talent. Every so often, someone will pop in there, but the way that those two coaches run their outfits is different from most others. And so it was only appropriate, frankly, that they agreed to a home and home, because they've got a lot of similarities there and clearly are operating like, top 10 units in the country over the past 5 years or so.